Hi, Cancer. Welcome to your June 2018 Astro Update. It's Raina here. And in June, there's a lot of quiet energy in your 12th house. And the 12th house in the universal chart is ruled by Pisces, a fellow water sign, and its ruler, Neptune. So there is a spiritual theme of the 12th house. This is the house of past lives, of the spiritual state, the spiritual planes, the indistinct, what is not of this world. The place that you may trip yourself up. So it's called the house of undoing for that reason. It's the house of karma. And the sun will be in this sector until the solstice time, when every year the sun goes from Gemini into your sign, Cancer. So this solstice is taking place on June 21st. And then the sun will be in your first house, in your sign. And Cancer, you will start to feel more like yourself. The sun has a revitalizing energy, influence on your life, and that will show up in terms of how you are going about your day-to-day life. So for the first few weeks, you have the sun in that 12th house. And it's kind of like bringing up perhaps things that you haven't wanted to deal with. The 12th house can be repressed memories, things that you've shoved under the rug emotionally. And yet, at the same time, because you are a water sign, you do tend to deal with such matters a lot easier than, let's say, a Gemini person would. So you do have a certain advantage when the sun is in your 12th house because it's trining. It's in I shouldn't say it's trining. It's in a place that feels comfortable because it's a fellow water house. You rule the 4th house of home and family, and that's a water house as well. So Mercury is also in this sector until the 12th. And Mercury is the way your mind works. It's your communication. Don't expect to make a whole lot of sense for the first 12 days because Mercury in the 12th house can make you less than clear in how you communicate ideas to others. You could be very spacey. And it's not like it's all bad, though, because it may be that you're very creative in a very inspired way. I remember Dr. Dyer, Wayne Dyer, who passed away, I think it was a couple of years ago. And he would say inspire is in spirit. And with the 12th house, there can be like an artistic influence, but coming from like a spiritual influence. And so anyway, Mercury can also bring up like past life memories. And you may not know that they're past life memories. I recently had this going on in my own chart. And I was like, why am I thinking this? And I would even look at things when I was walking around and I would have these psychic hits. Like it felt like deja vu, but there was no reason for it. It wasn't like it was in some kind of foreign country. I mean, it was just around town, but it was like maybe it was a memory that had long since been forgotten. But it was kind of cool, but sometimes a little bit unnerving because when I couldn't trace what was happening, it was like, why am I thinking this? Is this from a past life? And I never really could prove it, you know. But then Mercury goes into your first house on the 12th. And it's like you get aligned with your sun in that, well, your sun is going to be there later, but what I mean is that it's in your first house. And the first house is yourself. That's why I was saying sun. The sun will join Mercury at the solstice time of the 21st in that first house. But when you have Mercury in that first house, you are a great salesperson for yourself. And it's like you're able to communicate who you are to others, because remember that the first house is the house of your image and how you communicate to others who you are. Why would you need to communicate to others who you are? Well, if you're looking for a job, for instance, and they ask you those stupid questions about what is your worst trait, and you're supposed to figure out something to say that doesn't disqualify you, and at the same time that they don't think is you trying to get cute and, you know, get one over on them or what have you. But just being able to advocate for yourself if you need to, and also in your private life, if you're single and looking and you are on the dating scene and trying to meet those people, that person that you want to meet, you have to be able to explain who you are. And you'll be able to do that. When Mercury's in the 12th house, you may be talking about 500 years ago when you were a Buddhist priest. And so a day after Mercury goes into your sign, Venus, which has been in your sign, goes into the second house of earned income. So it's like the better it gets, because Venus will be in that first house for the first 13 days. Venus is all about beauty. The first house is your image. So you look good. Now, whether or not you actually make a concerted effort to look good, maybe Venus in the first house can see you getting a new haircut or a makeover, whatever, but it could just be your aura starts to improve. Venus is the attractor, so an aura is energy, your energetic imprint. And I believe that our auras can either repel other people from us, or they can bring people closer to us. And so obviously you must have that special something that attracts good things to you for whatever reason, whatever you need them to attract. And then Venus goes into your second house. Venus rules that house. Earned income. And this can increase the money that you earn. But I would actually keep it open-ended, because you never know how you will get blessed with money. And even, sometimes technically it might not be that you're actually working for the money, but your money is better. This can even involve big ticket items, luxury items, because the second house can be about that as well. So that looks really good. And then on the same day, there's a new moon in that 12th house at 22 degrees of Gemini. So this can be a time when you are arranging for some sort of, spiritual routine. Maybe this is involving a class that you're attending. Maybe join a membership at a yoga studio, and this kind of lights a fire under you to meditate on a regular basis. But some kind of new beginning in the area of the 12th house, spiritual matters. If you are a Cancer person who is interested in hypnosis, then I wouldn't even be surprised if it could be something along those lines. And I don't even know for sure if this falls into the category of the 12th house. But isn't hypnosis the subconscious mind? So maybe some Cancer people will be taking some kind of course on how to hypnotize people. Or go in for it yourself. Maybe past life regression, who knows? And that can open up your life spiritually. On the 18th, Neptune goes retrograde. Now Neptune is in its own sign of Pisces. And so there's that water trine, water connection that forms a trine to your sun or rising sign. And this will be in the 9th house of the higher mind, university level education, and foreign travel. You may have a bit of a reality check in any of these areas because Neptune retrograde has that effect. And so if you have put your faith in a spiritual teacher and you find out something that is rather human of him or her, that may feel very disappointing. Or if you were taking some kind of university courses, maybe you were going for a certain degree, and you have a revelation, it will usually probably involve the universe showing you something that is flawed or otherwise not working out in this area. You may feel a sense of being let down or even confusion. Now, it's interesting because Neptune itself, even when it's direct, can cause confusion. And when Neptune is retrograding, there can be clarity that is brought to the situation. But my feeling is that it can still create confusion in the clarification because the person, if somebody is really operating under a delusion and they are shown how whatever they're into is not on the right track or is somehow false, and that they were kind of being fooled by somebody or something, even though they have gained clarity, it may cause more confusion because it causes them to question other things that they thought were just, solid in their life. Like if you find out that a degree that you want to have is obsolete, for instance, and you've gone halfway through the program and now they've added all kinds of courses. That happened to me, actually. And I ended up just abandoning it because I felt like no matter how many courses I took, they always added more. It seemed almost like a scam. And so you may have clarity about the situation, but then you're like, okay, now what do I do? So there's still that confusion. But it's for the highest good. Again, the solstice is on the 21st, so the sun in your sign. And then on the 26th, this is pretty important, Mars goes retrograde in Aquarius. At some point, I believe in late July, it dips back into a late degree of Capricorn. And finally goes direct 2 months from the retrograde period on August 27th. So for you, this is first affecting your 8th house in June and later your 7th house. So what can this mean when Mars goes retrograde in these houses? Well, Cancer, The 8th house can be other people's money. So there could be something reopened, some old conflict that must be finally resolved. And because it goes back into your 7th house, which can just be legal stuff and finalizing legal things, but it can be marriage. So if you have gotten divorced or were in the process of settling a divorce and you thought everything was a done deal, there could be something else that opens up a whole new can of worms, and you have to further kind of put more effort in dividing the money between the two parties. And this could even involve if you had a partnership that went sour and you, or maybe you didn't have a falling out with your partner. Maybe it was simply that the business failed, but it was like, okay, who owes what, between the two of you, and you have to kind of go over those matters. Mars retrograde can be a time when we feel that things are kind of a lot more difficult to accomplish. And I've even heard it said not to begin new projects when Mars is retrograding, because they will be harder to accomplish. And, take that for what it's worth. If there's something that you really want to launch, then you have to decide how much power you give a transit. But yeah, this is going to be a 2-month ordeal, or that's the negative way of looking at it, or a transit. It might not affect you adversely. It might actually be a time. I was listening to another astrologer, and I didn't really hear or understand everything that she was saying about it, but I think she said some people are more energized during a Mars retrograde. I hope I'm one of those people. And then on the 28th, we have a full moon in Capricorn. And for you, that is that 7th house. And I would like to think that this is a prelude to Mars entering this sector in, I believe it's late July. So maybe this is when you find something out about your partner or about an ex. And this leads you to realize that you have to fight for what you want. Now, when Mars is retrograde, you may have to look at how you assert yourself in general in relationships and whether or not you are a pushover. Cancer is a cardinal sign. Cancer is quite an unusual, I was going to say a piece of work, because you're a cardinal sign, which means that you take action and can be quite assertive when you want to be. But you also have a timidity. And this is going to be a bit altered if, for instance, you have a moon sign that is very in your face, like Aries, Leo, even Sagittarius. Or if you have Mars in Leo, you might be a lot less of a pushover and a lot more of a ham or a diva. Okay? But anyway, that's something that Cancers oftentimes have to kind of contend with within themselves, that they can maybe sometimes not be so sure of themselves. Am I doing the right thing? Maybe even being consumed with guilt and wanting to be helpful and caring to others, but also wanting love for yourself. And if you are dealing with the aftermath of a marriage that went south, And especially if money is involved, a Cancer person can really rise to the occasion no matter what, no matter how timid they tend to be. Because, money to you is security. And if it takes a fight to get what you believe is coming to you, then bring it on, right? And a full moon in the 7th house for people who are, let's say, happily married, it can be, or let's just say married. Let's not say happily married. But I'm saying you're not getting a divorce. This could be a time when you realize it's over, or a time when you understand your partner better, because full moons can bring that intuitive realization, not just an intellectual realization, but kind of like that psychic hit that the person you're with has something going on with them, and maybe that makes you more compassionate or what have you. Okay, Cancer, that's what I have for you. And if this is the kind of reading that you enjoy and you would like a natal chart interpretation, I will link that type of reading below. I look at your personality traits, and I also look at the trends that are coming up for you astrologically for the next year in different areas of your life. Have a great June. Oh, and happy birthday for those of you who are born in June. Take care. Bye.